My husband stole our daughter's college fund for his mistress. Then my 12-year-old outsmarted him. My husband drained our daughter's college fund and vanished with his mistress. I was devastated until our 12-year-old smirked and said, "Mom, don't worry. I handled it." Days later, he called screaming after discovering Mark was stuffing clothes into a suitcase when I walked into our bedroom. No explanation, no eye contact, just frantic packing like the house was on fire. "What are you doing?" he asked. He didn't even look up. What I should have done years ago. His words hit me with the force of a physical blow. 22 years of marriage, and this was how it ended. Him throwing shirts into luggage while I stood in my pajamas, completely blindsided. "Mark, stop." I grabbed his arm, but he shrugged me off like I was a stranger. "Talk to me. What's happening?" He finally met my eyes, and what I saw there terrified me. Nothing. No guilt, no sadness, no regret, just cold determination. "I'm leaving Sarah today. Before we continue, I want to thank you for joining me in sharing stories about protecting our families. If you believe children deserve financial security, please consider subscribing. It's free and helps us reach more families who need to hear this. Now let's see what Emma discovered." The room spun around me. This couldn't be real. Yesterday we discussed Emma's college applications over dinner. Yesterday he kissed my forehead and said goodnight. Yesterday I was a wife, not whatever I was becoming in this moment. Is there someone else? The question fell out of my mouth before I could stop it. Mark paused, a dress shirt halfway into the suitcase. For just a second I thought I saw something flicker across his face. Then it was gone. This isn't about anyone else. This is about me needing to breathe again. But I knew the way he wouldn't look at me properly, the way his phone had been face down for months, the late meetings that ran later and later. I'd been pushing down these suspicions for so long that they'd become background noise, but now they screamed at me. "Where will you go?" My voice sounded small, pathetic. "Figure it out." He zipped the suitcase with finality. "I need you to transfer my half of the savings to my personal account." That's when the real panic set in. Money, Emma's college fund, our joint accounts, everything we'd built together. I ran downstairs, my bare feet slapping against the hardwood floors. Emma looked up from her cereal, concern creasing her 12-year-old face. What's wrong?" "Nothing, sweetheart. Dad's just going on a trip." The lie tasted bitter. I grabbed my laptop and logged into our bank account with shaking fingers. The page loaded and I stared at the screen in disbelief. Our checking account showed $247.83. Our savings account showed zero. Emma's college fund, the one we'd been feeding for 12 years, the one that should have had $75,000 in it, showed zero. "Whoa." The word came out as a whisper. "No, no, no." I refreshed the page. The numbers didn't change. I checked the transaction history. 3 days ago, while I was at my book club meeting, Mark had transferred everything. Everything. Not just his half, not just our shared money, but Emma's future too. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely type. I called the bank, praying this was some kind of mistake. The customer service representative confirmed what I already knew, but couldn't accept. Mark had full access to all accounts. The transfers were legitimate. Emma's voice seemed to come from far away. "You're scaring me." I looked at my daughter. Really looked at her. She was still in her school uniform, her dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, her backpack ready by the door. She had no idea that her father had just stolen her future and walked away. The sound of footsteps on the stairs made us both turn. Mark appeared, dragging his suitcase behind him. He walked past us like we were furniture heading straight for the front. That's it. I found my voice, and it was stronger than I expected. 22 years and you're just walking away. He stopped with his hand on the doorknob. "I left you a voicemail explaining everything." I don't want a voicemail. I want you to look at your daughter and explain why you're abandoning her. Emma stood up slowly from the breakfast table. She didn't cry, didn't run to him, didn't beg him to stay. She just watched him with those intelligent eyes that were so much like his. Mark glanced at Emma for maybe 3 seconds. "We'll understand when you're older," he said to her. Then he looked at me. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." A door closed behind him with a quiet click that somehow sounded louder than if he'd slammed it. Emma and I stood in the sudden silence of our kitchen. The coffee maker gurgled. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, a car engine started and pulled away. "Is he coming back?" Emma asked. I wanted to lie to protect her, to say that Daddy just needed some time. But looking at her face, I realized she already knew the answer. "Don't think so, baby." She nodded, processing this information the way she processed everything else in her life. With careful consideration. "Did he take our money?" The question caught me off guard. How could she know to ask that? "Some of it," I said carefully. "My college fund, too." I couldn't speak. I just nodded. Emma picked up her cereal bowl and walked it to the sink. She rinsed it out, dried it, and put it away in the cabinet. Then she turned to me with an expression I'd never seen before on her young face. "Mom, don't worry. Handled." The words were so unexpected, so calmly delivered that I almost laughed. Handled what? She was 12 years old. What could she possibly have handled? But something in her tone made me pause. There was no childish bravado, no empty comfort, just quiet confidence, like she knew something I didn't. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" Emma picked up her backpack and headed toward the door. "I'll miss my bus if I don't leave now. We'll talk after school, okay?" And then she was gone, leaving me alone in a house that suddenly felt enormous and empty, with questions I couldn't answer and a future I couldn't see. The house felt different that first week without Mark. Not just empty but watchful. Somehow, I found myself crying at random moments, folding his abandoned laundry, seeing his coffee mug still in the dishwasher, hearing Emma's alarm clock through the walls each morning. Emma, she moved through our shattered world like nothing had changed. Every morning at 7:15, she'd appear in the kitchen fully dressed, backpack organized, lunch packed. She'd kiss my cheek and say, "Have a good day, Mom," in the same cheerful tone she'd used when we were still a complete family. It was unsettling. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" I asked her one morning, catching her wrist gently as she headed for the door. She looked at me with those serious dark eyes. "I'm fine, Mom. Are you?" I wasn't fine. I was falling apart piece by piece, but I couldn't tell her that. "Just checking on you." "No." He squeezed my hand. "But I'm really okay." That evening I decided to call my sister Janet for advice. As I dialed, I could hear Emma upstairs in her room. The sound drifted down through the floorboards, rapid clicking, like she was typing frantically. I assumed she was chatting with friends about the situation, maybe processing her feelings online the way kids do now. "Sarah, how are you holding up?" Janet's voice was warm with concern. "I don't know," I admitted, sinking onto the couch. "Miss, being so strong, but I'm worried she's bottling everything up. She hasn't cried once." "Some kids process differently. Remember when Dad left? You cried for weeks, but I got angry and broke Mom's favorite vase." The clicking upstairs stopped suddenly, then resumed with even more intensity. "What's that sound?" Janet asked. "Emma's on her computer. Probably homework or games." But even as I said it, something nagged at me. The rhythm was too consistent, too purposeful for games. After I hung up with Janet, I made Emma's favorite dinner, grilled cheese and tomato soup. I knocked on her door around 6:30. "Come in," she called. I pushed the door open, carrying her dinner tray. Emma was sitting at her desk, her laptop screen angled away from me. She closed it quickly when I entered. "Brought you some food, honey." "Thanks, Mom." She took the tray without making eye contact. You can set it on my nightstand. As I placed the tray down, I glanced at her. Scattered papers, her school planner, a few textbooks. Nothing unusual, but there was something deliberate about how she'd positioned everything, like she'd arranged it specifically for my visit. What were you working on? Asked casually. History report on the Industrial Revolution. Opened her laptop again, but I caught a glimpse of the screen before she minimized whatever she'd been viewing. It looked like an email program, not a school document. Need any help? Thanks for dinner. I was dismissed. Politely but firmly. Kissed the top of her head and left, but the uneasy feeling lingered. Over the next few days, the pattern continued. Maintained her perfect routine while I spiraled deeper into confusion and grief. I'd wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with panic attacks, checking our bank accounts obsessively, calling Mark's number just to hear his voicemail. Meanwhile, Emma would emerge each morning looking rested and composed. The typing continued every week. Sometimes it went on until nearly midnight. Friday evening I was putting away Emma's clean laundry when I saw it. A single sheet of paper on her desk, partially hidden under her science textbook. I shouldn't have looked, but something about the formatting caught my eye. It was a printed email thread. Names at the top made my blood freeze. Mark and Rebecca's. My hands shook as I pulled the paper out. The messages were dated from 3 weeks ago before Mark left. They were discussing meeting times, hotel reservations, and something about handling Sarah when the time came. I sat down hard on Emma's bed, staring at the evidence in my hands. My 12-year-old daughter had somehow accessed her father's private emails. How was that even possible? Emma's voice from the doorway made me jump. She stood there holding her empty dinner plate, looking at me with those calm, assessing eyes. No panic, no embarrassment at being caught, just quiet observation. Emma, where did this come from? She set her plate down and closed her bedroom door behind her. Dad's not very good with passwords. How did I started? Then stop. How long have you known about Rebecca? 6 weeks. About the money. I figured that out the day before he left. 6 weeks. While I'd been blissfully unaware my child had been living with this knowledge, I felt sick. Why didn't you tell me? Emma sat beside me on the bed, suddenly looking more like the 12-year-old she actually was. I wanted to be sure, and I wanted to figure out what to do about it. Honey, this isn't your responsibility. Yes, it is. Her voice was firm. He stole my college fund. He lied to both of us. Someone had to do something. I looked around her room with new eyes. Everything seemed different now. Her organized desk, her careful routine, her a natural calm. What else do you know? Emma got up and pulled a spiral notebook from under her mattress. She handed it to me without hesitation. The pages were filled with handwritten notes, printed screenshots, diagrams I couldn't understand, and lists of numbers that might have been phone numbers or account information. Emma, what is all this research? She sat back down beside me. Dad thinks he's smart, but he's careless. He uses the same password for everything. He doesn't clear his browser history. He doesn't even log out of his accounts when he's done. I flipped through page after page of meticulous documentation, financial records, text message screenshots, what looked like travel itineraries. My daughter had been conducting surveillance on her own father. I struggled for words. This is incredible and terrifying. I learned most of it from YouTube tutorials. Computer security is really interesting once you understand the basics. Emma, this kind of thing, hacking into someone's accounts, it's not legal. She looked at me with an expression far too mature for her age. Neither is stealing $75,000 from your daughter's college fund. The matter-of-fact way she said it sent chills down my spine. This wasn't my little girl anymore. This was someone I'd never met before. Someone calculating and focused and completely unafraid. What are you planning to do with all this information? Emma took the notebook back and closed it carefully. I'm still working on that part. But don't worry, Mom. I've got this handled. There was that phrase again. The same words she'd said that morning when her father walked out of our lives. But now they carried a weight that made me realize I might not know my own daughter at all. Show me everything, I said, my voice barely steady. Emma hesitated for the first time since this nightmare began. Mom, some of it's pretty bad. Show me. Opened her laptop and pulled up a folder labeled Science Fair Project.